Extensive public health research and investigative journalism show that weak regulations correlate with a broad range of gun violence in the United States, from bullet-ridden city neighborhoods to accidental child deaths in suburban homes to suicides in rural towns. Those problems produce far more casualties than the indiscriminate school and workplace mass shootings that so dominate public attention. Study of disparate state laws has made clear that stricter gun regulations would help diminish an overall national toll of nearly 40,000 shooting deaths and 115,000 injuries annually. Even so, the scope of the mass shootings problem is larger and more complex than its tool of destruction. With this book, my aim is to leave behind the battle over gun laws and instead tell the story of an additional solution to the affliction of mass shootings, one with powerful potential to reduce harm. Its focus is on the intricacy and possibilities of human behavior. I first began to learn about the field of behavioral threat assessment in 2013, about a year after turning my attention to a spate of gun rampages and working with colleagues at Mother Jones to build a database we called A Guide to Mass Shootings in America. After the July 2012 massacre at a movie theater in Aurora, Colorado, I'd been startled to find that virtually no data were available on this particular type of attack, whether from government agencies, academic researchers, policy groups, or news organizations. No one had put forth a comprehensive, detailed set of cases, let alone any in-depth analysis of the problem. The void was owed in no small part to a political chill dating from the mid-1990s, when the National Rifle Association and its allies in Congress orchestrated a de facto prohibition of federal funding for gun violence research. An additional factor was likely the challenge of defining a mass shooting, which historically was a matter of loose consensus among criminologists and FBI experts, an attack by a lone assailant in a public place with an arbitrary baseline of 4 or more victims killed. Excluding attacks with conventional motives like robbery or gang violence, I worked with my team to assemble a first-of-its-kind online database detailing dozens of cases in the United States going back 3 decades. The frequency with which it required updating in the following months and years was sobering. Beyond documenting the legal provenance of most mass shooters' guns, my initial analysis of cases revealed that more than half of the killers ended their attacks in suicide. I grew aware of another stark pattern. Details from news reports, court and police records, and my interviews with experts made clear that many of the perpetrators had acted in worrisome or disruptive ways prior to attacking, often for a long time. These had been potentially life-saving warning signs, and yet the saturation of news coverage following mass shootings almost always told a different story, routinely quoting people who knew or had come in contact with the killers and expressed utter surprise in the aftermath. "I never imagined he'd do something like this," or "nobody could have seen this coming." Evidence from dozens of cases suggested those perceptions were mistaken. The theme of astonishment was further contradicted by a remarkable development. Many attacks in the making were being stopped, according to the top law enforcement official in the United States. 10 months after Sandy Hook, in October 2013, Attorney General Eric Holder stated in a speech to the nation's police chiefs that the FBI had helped thwart more than 100 active shooters since the beginning of that year. Now that was compelling news. I soon learned that a little-known threat assessment team within the FBI's elite behavioral analysis unit had been ramping up outreach to state and local law enforcement agencies, public universities, and other institutions around the country to assist with threat cases at the request of local leaders. Meanwhile, America's endless debate over guns bred apathy and surrender. Even as the nation was freshly grieving Sandy Hook, one widely cited criminologist published an article titled "Mass Shootings in America, Moving Beyond Newtown," in which he wrote, "Eliminating the risk of mass murder would involve extreme steps that we are unable or unwilling to take, abolishing the Second Amendment, achieving full employment, restoring our sense of community, and rounding up anyone who looks or acts at all suspicious. Mass murder just may be a price we must pay for living in a society where personal freedom is so highly valued." I couldn't accept that way of thinking, especially